straight talk with no chaser. He gives the people a voice, empowers you with a choice. She gives you straight talk, no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. She provides a platform of growth and gives a dying people hope. She gives you straight talk, no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser.
Welcome to the Straight No Chaser Show on intellectualradio.com and iHeartRadio station. This is your host, Rhea Ray Harris, and I'm so grateful to be with you this evening. Tonight's show segment is special for two reasons. Number one, this is the third anniversary of the Straight No Chaser Show on Intellectual Radio.
Nice.
It's been 3 years.
I didn't know.
And that's what makes the second really special announcement even all the more important, because H. Cortez came all the way from St. Louis to do not a money moment, but a money hour. So I appreciate that so much, especially on the anniversary of the Straight No Chaser Show. So how are you this evening?
I am doing well, but I will tell you, I was surprised at paying 2 tolls to get here. I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? And then they didn't want to give me a receipt. I was like, hey, this is a tax write-off. Give me my doggone receipt.
You know, you're in Illinois. It's the land of the free and the home of the robbers. That's how this is over here. Yeah. I know it's rough.
Yeah, within 15 minutes, I'm like, we passed 1 toll, and then I kept seeing the sign saying another toll. I said, no, it can't be. That's a mistake.
No, that's Illinois all over.
All right.
Now, I want to give the audience a little better understanding of who you are as a person before we get into this real business.
Certainly.
So, were you born and raised in St. Louis?
I was not. I was actually born in Tupelo, Mississippi.
Oh, yes. That's where the gambling house is. My mama and them go there on the way to Natchez. Yes,
I was born in Tupelo, but I was raised in St. Louis since about the age of 9 is when I moved to St. Louis permanently. Before then, I was kind of back and forth between the two, but at age 9, I stayed and went through school all through, I think, 4th grade, starting all the way up through high school in St. Louis. So raised in a small community known as Wellston. It's on the outskirts of St. Louis City, kind of, what borders what would be considered St. Louis County. So not quite the suburbs, but not technically the city either.
We have a space like that here. It's called Calumet Park, and it still has a Chicago zip code, but it's just right there on that edge. One more step and you are into a suburban area. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, what made you decide that you want to become the financial wealth mentor? Because this is not something that is for the faint of heart, number one. I don't know what people think, but I know this is not an easy choice, and you have to be dedicated to it for real. So what made you say, man, I want to just deal with teaching people how to grow wealth and invest in themselves and a lot of things? Like, what did you do before you became the financial health mentor?
You know what, for me, it was all about, my background. I'm the 4th of 6 children raised by a single mom on welfare, and understood at an early age what it meant to be broke. But even at an early age, I understood the difference between being broke and being poor. So even though we were on welfare, one of the reasons we were on welfare because my mom is a minister, so she was heavily involved in the church, and that's why she didn't work. So at the same time that we were broke, she was teaching us God's principles about money, and she was teaching us how to overcome and how to not let our temporary situations affect our moods and that sort of thing. So being broke, as a young man, I said, wow, if I ever figure out how this money game is really played or how to really acquire wealth, then I want to tell the world. And when I found some strategies that worked in my life, I said I would never be broke, but you get into a marriage with children, and life happens, and you find yourself broke. So even with that, I said I'm going to find a way. So I was in foreclosure. Couldn't file bankruptcy because I had previously filed bankruptcy within the last couple of years of the foreclosure. So I was struggling, but at the same time, I was open to looking at ways to build real wealth for me and my family. And I found some strategies that worked, helped me out of that jam. And I said, you know what? I'm going to dedicate my life to helping other people in that same area.
Before we go any further, because you mentioned that your mother is truly faith-based.
Yes. Yes.
I want to correct something that people say a lot, and it really frustrates me. And they say, money is the root of all evil. That is inaccurate. The scripture
Correct.
says the love of money is the root of all evil. And to get money doesn't mean that you, quote unquote, love it, because money serves a purpose in this community.
Exactly.
That's the currency. We're not in a barter system anymore. Right. But to worship money, which is what the scripture is talking about, is something different than earning money.
Exactly. And not only that, as with all scripture, context is very important, because the same book also says in Deuteronomy 8:18, it is God who gives us the ability to attain wealth.
Yes.
So he can't say on one hand, I'm going to give you the ability to gain wealth, and then on the second hand, slap you for actually pursuing wealth. So you're very true in that it's the love of money. It's when you start putting money or your pursuit of money above him that gets you in trouble.
All right. See, because I have to always get my amen corner together.
Yeah.
So once you looked at that situation, because I think a lot of people have been in those really tight spaces financially.
Yeah.
And you said, okay, there is a way out of it. I have to figure it out. Once you figured it out, is that what pushed you into saying, well, I figured it out for me, I'm interested in showing other people how they can figure it out for themselves too?
Yeah, that was it. And I've always been an entrepreneur. Since I was old enough to wield a rake and push a lawnmower, I've been trying to be my own man at 8, 9 years old. So when I saw the opportunity and the strategies that work for me, I said, you know what, not only can I use this information to help others, but I can also build a business and a brand around teaching education, because there's not a lot of people who look like me that are actually teaching people who look like me how money actually works. And I saw, just like what any entrepreneur would do, they see need, and then they find a way to fill that need, and they just happen to get compensated for it. So that was, two things. One, my own situation that worked for me, and then secondly, the entrepreneur in me kicked in and said, you know what, you can also build a business around this, and now you're sharing this information and getting paid for it at the same time. So those were the two catalysts that said, you know what, you are the financial health mentor, and let's move forward with it.
Okay. Now, I know there are a couple of things that I've focused in on when I watch I call them podcasts, I know that's the wrong term, but when I watch your videos, one is the family unit working together.
Yes.
And the other is about retirement planning.
Yes.
Because I've told the story once or twice before, perhaps, but I'm going to speak on the retirement planning first. I remember way back when I used to watch Good Times, the original airing. And there was a segment that they were having a potluck party, and everyone was concerned about the upstairs neighbor because she allegedly was eating cat food because her finances were so restricted. And I mean, when she made the casserole, and I guess it was supposed to be funny how everybody was kind of like steering clear of the casserole, like, no, I'm not tasting that right now. I'm kind of feeling some spaghetti or whatever. But the point of the segment was, she said, I would never feed my friends that, but yes, I do sometimes have to eat cat food. And to say that I saw that 40 years ago and still can remember that episode, that I was traumatized then, because just the concept of that just hurt my spirit.
Right.
And so now we're looking at a population of baby boomers that are turning in this country 65 at the rate allegedly of 10,000 a day.
Per day. That's correct.
Some of them which have not planned very well for retirement, some of whom had pensions and 401ks or whatever that did not pay out as much as they thought.
Right.
And so they're caught in kind of a real kind of funky situation. But for those people that still have time to plan for retirement, what is it that you teach them?
Okay. So first of all, I teach that you have to understand, number one, we do have the two objectives, right? You got to eat today, but you also have to eat tomorrow. So that's what we're talking about now is, yes, pay the light bills today, but don't get so caught up that you don't take some money and put it to the side for tomorrow. So those are the two objectives that we're trying to meet. But like you said, a lot of people don't understand the root causes of their challenges. Therefore, they're not applying or curing them at the root cause. So number one, if you don't understand inflation, you're going to find yourself struggling like a lot of those people who do have pensions, because they said, you know what, I made $3,000 a month now, $4,000 a month now, so that's what I'm going to need when I retire. Well, guess what? The cost of living doubles every 18 to 24 years. So if you said you need $4,000 today to live, and you plan to have $4,000 a month to live on when you're at retirement age, and if that's 20 years out, then you actually needed $8,000. So you can see how they're falling short because of inflation. Second thing that you have to understand is that taxes is your biggest expense. And even in retirement, you are taxed. So a lot of people, again, say, I need $4,000 today, so I'm going to prepare my retirement to give me $4,000 in 20 years. But inflation and taxes have to be accounted for, and they're not accounting for those things. So when they get to that retirement age, those are some of the things or some of the reasons that they don't have what they thought they would, or are able to live the same lifestyle. So we teach that you have to always understand how to put your money in places that's going to outpace inflation, and you have to always account for inflation and taxes come first. Make sure that you account for paying Uncle Sam. And then when you account for inflation, now you get to a place where if your money has outran inflation, you'll be okay.
So that people know, because I know being from St. Louis, you may not have seen this, but the people in the Chicago area have been hit with something new.
Okay.
They have the property taxes, which went up on average.
Okay.
Then to the water bill was added garbage pickup and sewage, which was new.
Okay.
So people were like, wait a minute. And you had a lot of seniors who, because they had not heard of this before, because it did not exist in Chicago prior to right now, literally this last tax bill that came out, had not budgeted for it.
Wow.
And they are saying that it is going to do the steady, like I said, the steady increase, because they're using allegedly part of this money to pay off municipal pensions. And they're telling you, though, in a couple of years, though, we're going to have to jack this up a little bit more.
Wow.
So on top of that, Chicago also has the highest sales tax in the nation.
Whoa. Okay.
So even when you buy a bottle of water in Chicago, there's an extra water charge here.
So you got a sales tax and an extra water tax?
Yes. So you're actually, when you buy a bottle of water in the city of Chicago, not in the county of Cook, you have an extra tax just because it's a bottle of water, and we have the highest sales tax in the nation.
That's amazing.
So then you throw on the sewer tax and the garbage pickup, which is going to escalate, as well as the property taxes.
Gotcha.
So I want people in Chicago to understand specifically how much more we have to budget for.
Yes.
Because there is definitely a change in the game if you're going to stay here.
Exactly. And I will say this, you want to not only take a look at what's going on in your current household, you also want to figure out ways to increase your streams of income. So if they are increasing your residual bills, then you might want to figure out how to get some residual income in your life. some extra income. And I'm talking to people all the time about the gifts, talents, and special abilities that God has given each of us. Every single person on this planet does something better than most. So much so that other people will either pay you to do it for them, pay you to teach them how to do it, or pay you to do it with them. So as a result, you can turn your passions, your special talents and gifts into a second and third income stream. We look back to what happened in 2008, and the studies show that if the average American in 2008 had an extra $300 to $500 a month coming in, 80% of those people could have avoided foreclosure and bankruptcy.
Wow.
With just an extra $300 to $500 a month. We're not talking about making all these people millionaires or wealthy, but most of us have talents where we can promote and market those gifts, talents, and abilities and make an extra $200 or $300 a month. And that alone could cover some of those added costs and expenses. And then when you start to understand how investments work, you keep your day job. You bring in an extra $300 or $400 a month from some sort of business enterprise, and then you take that money and you start piling it on to your 401k investments or anything else that you already have going on. Or if you don't have anything going on, you go ahead and get something started and you start building a retirement or investment income with that $300 or $400 per month that you're bringing in from your little side hustle is what I call it.
And you know what? It's no longer a side hustle. Like I said, at this point, it is entrepreneurship and it's another career.
It should be, because entrepreneurship is a new retirement, and there's three main reasons, sometimes four, depending on who I'm talking to, that I say you have to consider entrepreneurship. You have to consider entrepreneurship, number one, because of your time. You have to think about what kind of time do you have left to get to your retirement number. If you are the studies show that you need $2 million in a retirement account paying at about 8% rate of return. Most people aren't going to make $2 million on their job. So you're going to figure out how to supplement that so that you can get some retirement or some investment income that's going to grow a nest egg for you to the tune of $2 million. Second reason that you have to consider entrepreneurship is for the babies. Think about it like this. If you only show your children get up, go to work, get paid, pay bills, get up, go to work, get paid, pay bills, what's going to keep them from ending up in the same place that you are when they get your age? You have to show them something different. That's why our entrepreneurship is so key. Number three, we talk about your passions and your gifts and your talents. Number three for me is purpose. The reason this world is going to hell in a handbasket is because nobody's walking in their purpose. Why aren't you walking in your purpose? Because you don't follow your passion. Why don't you follow your passion? Because you haven't figured out how to make money with your passion. So when you walk away from your passion to chase a dollar, it's your passion that leads you to your purpose. See, most people don't understand why you feel a certain way about a certain thing. It's just in you. Well, that was put in you by your creator. Because when you start following those passions, they're going to lead you to your purpose. They're going to lead you to other people that are also walking in their passions and their purpose, and maybe your paths need to cross. But when you step away from your passion, maybe your passion is music. You can't figure out how to make money doing music, so you go get a job. Now you're nowhere near working in your passion. So how will you ever find your purpose?
And it also manifests in other things as far as unhappiness, dissatisfaction, etc. So definitely, you said there was possibly a fourth one for some people.
Yeah, for some people. So if you think about your children, you think about the time that you need to put in, you think about your your passion or your purpose, and then you have to think about your freedom. Because when you make money through some sort of enterprise, chances are you can get to a point where that money will outpace your job income. If that becomes the case and you have an emergency fund set to the side, you're making more money through your side business or your entrepreneur endeavors than you are on your job, now you can free up your time, and that also goes back to your purpose. A lot of people, when you can't find a way to monetize your passion, but if you can find money in some sort of business or create multiple income streams, now you can get back to those passions because you're not counting on them to feed you. But when you're counting on something to feed you, you think about it. When kids are going to school, it doesn't really matter what they're passionate about. Where are their parents steering them? To the highest income paying jobs or the highest income paying fields. So now I'm pulling you away from your passion so you can chase a dollar, so you never end up walking in your purpose as a result of that. So entrepreneurship is extremely, extremely important. And whether or not you really have success at it, sometimes it's not even the end game. Like we talked about the children. Children pick up more than they actually learn. I don't sit my children down and teach them every little business principle I know, but just by immersing them in a culture where entrepreneurship is dominant, all of my friends are entrepreneurs. So everybody that comes around is an entrepreneur. We think different, we talk different. So as they're sitting around and they look at the books that are laying around the house, the different books that I read, they're different than the books that employees read. So all of that is a culture that's immersing your children in, and they just pick up entrepreneurship, and that gives them an edge when they go out into the world to start working. And for me, you planted that seed. So whether you had the success that you want to have or not is not always the key. Sometimes just you making the attempt lays the foundation for the next generation to build on that thing. And who knows, you might have the next Bill Gates, you might have the next Warren Buffett, who not only build on it, but build a skyscraper on that thing just because you laid the foundation.
What I find interesting is, and this is a small history lesson a little bit, the community of African Americans used to be entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, we were trained to overall get a job.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at a lot of other communities,
mm-hmm.
especially I can speak for the Chicagoland area, the Middle Eastern community and mm-hmm. the Asian community, they get the education. I'm not saying they don't go to school or anything. I'm saying mm-hmm. that even with that, they learn to manage the family business, because right. there's a family business in a mm-hmm. lot of cases, and even the Hispanic population as well.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they don't choose to operate in that particular business,
yeah.
most of their children have a business.
Exactly.
And I wonder, how do other populations, and in this case, particularly the African American population, how do we get away from what I almost feel is a fear
mm-hmm.
of, quote unquote, not having a job, and into the excitement of having an entrepreneurship and a career
right.
where you can flourish? Because it's now almost training to get a job.
It is 100%. You're 100% correct on that. I would say one word: sacrifice. All it takes is one generation to sacrifice. But you talked about history. Let me say something on that, because what happened was, when we left the Reconstruction period, at the end of slavery, who had all the skills? It was us.
Yes.
We had all the skills. But when that flood of skilled laborers entered the workforce, what happened at the same time? You had the birth of the unions, which kept us out of using those skills to feed our family. As a result, our men and our women who had those skills said, you know what? If you can't use these skills to feed your family, I'm not going to pass them down to you. So then we began to usher our children into school to get an education, to get a job, where now you're starting to see a bit of a renaissance, where the men are starting to say, you know what? Yes, I'm gonna send you to school, but I'm gonna send you to school to learn accounting, or to learn to be an attorney or something, so that
can benefit,
so that you can become a business owner yourself, but so that you can help me in my entrepreneur endeavors. So I'm of the opinion that our children are so brilliant. There's no reason on this earth, other than we're just in a jacked up school system situation, that our children can't have 3 or 4 skills, trade skills under their belt before they graduate high school. And if they decide to go on to college, now you pay for college with those skills, and you graduate with a degree and no debt.
And it's very interesting you put it like that, because in this area, we used to have what they used to call vocational high schools.
Yep.
And they slowly kind of try to phase them out. And now they're just literally starting to bring those skill trainings back, because what they found was my mother's a retired school teacher. She said it's not that everyone can't go to college.
Mm-hmm.
She said, but everyone's gift is not necessarily what the traditional college teaches.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
if you want to become a hairstylist, for example,
mm-hmm.
become a hairstylist, then own the salon.
Exactly.
Then own 2 salons.
Yeah.
Then put a boutique in your salon.
Yeah.
Then own the nail tech shop next door.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
it's not, oh, I'm just a hairdresser. It's I'm an entrepreneur on my way to being a multifaceted entrepreneur.
Exactly. And not only that, this was a systematic move, because it's not just here. This happened all over the country.
Okay.
All over the country. And basically what they did was they took those trades out of the schools, because not only did we have vocational schools where that's all that took place in those schools, but every public school also had vocational education included. So what they did was they took that stuff out of the public free education, and what did they do to it? They gave it to the Vatterats, the ITTs, and all of these trade institutions where you would go get loans to go get the same education that you used to get for free. And I'm not mad, because it's capitalism, and I'm a capitalist at heart. I am a full-fledged capitalist, right? But what we have to start to look at as a community is this. If we use that method and that model and say, okay, they took it away from us for free, so we can no longer get this trade for free, but we can, as a family, pitch in the cost to send one of our best and brightest to get that HVAC certification, get that electrical certification, and get that plumbing certification. Now, we've paid for 3 certifications, but your job is to come back and teach all of your cousins, nephews, nieces. So now we pay for the education once, and we're going to educate everybody else with hands-on experience as we're building a family business in the electrical, plumbing, and HVAC trade. So there are ways that we can do things, but we have to get out of employee think. We have to get outside of, start thinking outside of the box, and start thinking about how we can build a nation, and not just how we can go to work to survive, or to just basically get by, because that's all we're doing is we're getting by. We know communities and other families in other communities will pile up 10, 12, 15 in a single house, and they all split rent for $50 a piece. If you told me I can go somewhere and live for $50 a month, I'd be a millionaire in 6 months, because I will take the rest of my income and do something with it that will generate that kind of revenue. But we're not thinking along those lines, because we're not thinking about building. So when we start thinking about building, then the entire mentality changes, and it's like, okay, so I've got a cousin who's got the HVAC. I've got a cousin who's got the plumbing certificate. I got a cousin who's got the electrical certificate. I've got a cousin who's a carpenter. That means we can build a house. Now we get someone
from the ground.
We get someone in school to start understanding real estate. Now we get somebody in school to understand land and those sorts of things. Now you've got a family empire being birthed right here. So when I talked about sacrifice, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about me as the one who's doing the sacrificing. I may not be able to drive the Lexus. I may not be able to live in the 5-bedroom, 10,000 square foot house, but because me and my generation, my cousins, my peers, the ones in my generation, we made the sacrifice, we laid the foundation. Now nobody else that comes after us, another generation, will never have to want for a job, because we have so many businesses in the family that you will always be able to work.
When we think of young children, because this is something else I think we have gotten away from in general. I used to have a bank, and I would never break it though, because it was a dog. It was a ceramic dog, so I didn't want to break it.
Right.
But my mother talked to me about, if you have a quarter, put a dime in the bank. You know, if you have $1, put a quarter in the bank.
Yeah.
Just always put something aside. What should we now? Because I think these children, if they can turn on these iPhones and maneuver all that, I think they can understand some of the basics of savings and banking. What should we teach our young people, starting from, like I said, 4, 5, 6 years old, about savings?
Every opportunity that you get before a child, you should always be pointing out entrepreneurship. I'll give you an example. I sit on a board for a organization called the Young Biz Kids, where we teach entrepreneurship to children. One of our star pupils, his mother is the founder of this organization. When her son was 5 or 6 years old, he would bug her for change for vending machine snacks. And she said, somebody owns that vending machine. So every time you put change in there, somebody is getting wealth from you. And the first thing he said is, well, how do I own the vending machine? So when you start talking to your children like that, then their eyes begin to open, and you start teaching them that there is a difference between ownership and consumerism. See, right now we only teach them the consumerism. So this kid has just gotten a call this week from another institution asking him to bring and place another one of his vending machines in their location. He has about 3 of them right now. So based on just general conversations and talking about what entrepreneurship really is, the importance of ownership, the light bulb came on in his head right away. Now, it may take 3 or 4 or 5, maybe 10, 15, 20 conversations for some kids, but you should always be having those conversations. The conversation about buying the Nike shoe versus the Nike stock. That should be a conversation that you can start as soon as they can understand language. They can understand that. So as soon as they start asking for money to go and spend money, they can understand. You should be thinking about ownership and investing versus spending and consuming. So you should definitely be having those conversations as early as possible. But yes, starting with some sort of bank, and even with taking another level with starting a bank. Okay, you have a bank, but here's why we're banking. Here's why we're saving, because when you get to $40, $50, I think the Nike stocks are trading at about $60. When we get to $60, we're going to go ahead and buy you a share of the Nike stock. So now giving a purpose to what they're saving for. And now they have a goal behind that saving. And so they start asking the questions, well, what is a Nike stock? Well, here's what's going to happen when you own that Nike stock. Every time you see one of your little friends with a pair of Nike shoes on, you own the company that produced those shoes. And they start making connections, and then they start understanding the power and the importance of their money.
When we are talking about, because I know sometimes family is not easy. I know, because I have some cousins that I'm like, ooh wee. I love you, but some days it's rough. But when we're dealing with working together as a family structure, as a family unit, how do you advise? Sometimes we just start. How do we start for those that don't have any entrepreneur background?
Well, every family has at least one or two. Every family has a couple, and it's usually the couple that is usually the one or two that you run from when you see them coming, because you know they're trying to sell you something. They're trying to talk to you about some sort of idea. Well, we've got to get out of that running from them, and we got to get into, okay, let's do what wealthy people do. Wealthy people do what's called mastermind. That means, yes, Crazy Willie got another one of his crazy ideas, but why are they crazy? Only because he thinks differently than everybody else. But if we all pull the seat to the table and let Crazy Willie explain his idea, maybe it takes the rest of the family to shape and mold that idea so everybody can see the value in it. And when you get to that place, maybe you'll start saying, well, wait a minute. So you're onto something here, Willie, but you just don't have the capital to pull it off. You're onto something here, but you don't have the administrative mindset to pull it off. But you start looking at Aunt Betty, you start looking at Uncle Tom, and you start saying, okay, there's the administrator, there's the capital, there's the laborers. So we've got what we need to pull it off, but it started with having the open mind to sit down and having the desire to build a family empire to start with, and not keep saying that I'm going to build this empire myself. See, the word self-made millionaire, that phrase is an oxymoron, because there's no such thing as a self-made millionaire. No millionaire made itself. It's always been a team of people around that person that got them to where they eventually became. And most millionaires will tell you that, but they won't shun away from the title of self-made. But if you talk to them, they'll tell you They've got mentors. They've got people who they may be the visionary, but they've got people who supported the vision and helped the vision come to be and things of that nature. So it starts with the willingness to first sit down and have the conversation that, you know what, we do want to build a family empire. We do want to get over struggle mentality. So maybe you sit down and you start having that mastermind, and it might take a monthly family meeting for 12 straight months before something come out of that. But that's where it begins. It begins to identify the people who have the desire to do it, and then the people who are willing to take action, and then most of all, the people who are willing to actually put skin in the game to make it happen.
When I went to a seminar earlier this year, a real estate seminar, and I was so surprised because I looked around, I'm like, okay, why haven't I heard this before from other people? And what the gentleman was talking about firstly was there are people that are called private investors. And if you have shaky credit or the interest rates are so high or whatever, that it makes buying property for you to either rent to other people or to fix up and flip a little less feasible.
Right.
They are private investors. And I'm going, we have those, you know,
exactly.
And you know, now back in the day, I was like, are they talking about the old school loan sharks? What are we talking about here? But they were talking about there are people that this is what they do.
Exactly.
And so what I'd like to ask you is, are there people literally carving out niches where these niches did not exist, not as much, at least in the past?
Right. They're always been there, but people are finding them more because, again, we're at the age of technology. The internet world has opened us up, because you have to think about it. Before, to find something about a private investor, you'd have to read it in a book. Now there's a YouTube video talking about it. So that's easily accessible information now, where it was a little bit difficult to get. So when you're talking about private investors, what you have to understand about wealthy people is wealthy people understand how valuable their time is. So you're talking about a group of people who know a good deal when they see it. They just don't have time to go find it. So they're willing to pay you to bring them the good deal. And they're willing to even split the profit with you, but they know how valuable their time is. So they're not going to spend their time hunting for these deals where they can make $5,000 and $10,000 when they're used to making $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 per deal. But no wealthy person in their right mind is going to turn down an opportunity to make a quick $10,000 if all they have to do, if the ducks are lined up in a row, and all they have to do is provide the capital and hit the switch. So those people have always been around. It's just the internet has allowed us to get access to the information about what they do and how to find them. So yes, people are carving out niches, but those niches have always been there. Those are the courses that you hear late night on TV, how you can flip real estate, no money down and stuff, and nobody believes in it. Nobody buys it. But you get a guy like me who buy that program, and I've done this, bought the program, and he said, what you have to do is you have to mail letters to, you have to go to the county courthouse and look at all the people who are in foreclosure. And he said, you mail them a letter and just say, hey, I want to help you out of foreclosure. Problem is, you're going to have to probably mail 200 or 300 letters. Now, that's going to cost you, at the time, a stamp was maybe 20, 25 cents. So that's going to cost you 200 times 25 cents and whatever it costs you to print the letter. But if 2 or 3 people respond to that letter and you're able to help them out of foreclosure, you're going to make $5,000 to $10,000. So I had to have the wherewithal to understand the numbers that I had to go through, and have the courage to step out there on faith and put this little $100 up or whatever it cost me to print the letters and mail them all out, and have faith that somebody was going to respond based on the volume of letters that I sent, and that I would get 2 or 3 people who needed my help, and I was able to help them out of foreclosure. And it happened just like that. I had one guy who was in foreclosure, but he had good equity in his home, didn't want to lose it. So we were able to help him save his home and
get a return.
Get a return on that little $200, that little $100 that I spent on all those letters and sent them out. The time it took me to go to the courthouse, research all of that stuff. It may have taken me a week to get all that stuff together, but I made about $6,000 on the deal.
And that's, again, an entrepreneurial mentality.
Gotta have the mindset. Gotta have the mindset.
Now, I know you were Were you in Memphis last?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because
Labor Day weekend, I was in Memphis.
I was keeping up. I was keeping up
Yeah, I was in
because I
Memphis.
saw the lady introducing you. I was watching. Now, don't think
Yeah,
I have my guests on here. And I don't know what
yeah,
they're doing. I'm
yeah,
watching them.
yeah, yeah.
And part of what you do
Hmm.
is presentations for groups.
Yes, yes.
Tell the intellectual radio family a little
Hmm.
bit about that aspect, because what I want them to understand is you write books. Here's mine. Yay, here's
Yes,
mine. And we'll talk about this,
yeah,
but you also do presentations so
yes,
that people have a much more clear understanding
right.
of what their options are financially.
Exactly. So what I do is I have what's called a financial success membership that people can plug into to learn how to minimize their taxes, eliminate their debt, free up the cash that they need to start investing. And then we provide investment education. So people can plug into that. And then what happened was I had a team that was developing in Memphis. I was on my way to Tupelo, my hometown, for Labor Day weekend. I said, you know what? I will be in the area anyway. And she said, great. Do you mind doing a workshop for me when you come through? I will invite some people out who need to hear what we do. So I do that. And basically that workshop is my signature workshop is called Building a Family Empire from Scratch. And what I literally do is I teach people how to free up anywhere from $500 to $1,000 of the money that they're currently making right now from their job by minimizing their taxes, eliminating their debt. And then I teach them how to um, how investments work. So if they want to take that $500 to $1,000 and start investing it for themselves, they certainly can do that. But I take it one step further and say, hey, why don't you also get with maybe 8 or 9 other family members? And I teach you all to free up $1,000 a month. Now that's $10,000 a month to start that family empire. You save that for 12 straight months. That's $120,000 for the year. That's a down payment on a 50-unit apartment complex somewhere. So that's what we do when we do those workshops. And I actually got 2 coming up in St. Louis. So if you're in the St. Louis area, definitely hit me up. I'll give you the details on those. Or you can go to www.myfamilyempire.com to register. The details are there. But we literally teach people how to build wealth from scratch. Because most of the financial institutions that will help you build wealth, they are designed and set up for people who already have money. If you got an extra $1,000 a month and all your bills are paid and you're trying to figure out what to do with it, there is no shortage of people on this
Right.
planet that will
Running
tell you what to do with
you,
that money
yes.
so they can earn a small commission. But the problem is, what about the 3 out of 4 people who are living paycheck to paycheck? Who's helping them build wealth? And that's where me and my program comes in, because you can literally start where you are. Where I started was between 5 and 6 months behind on my mortgage. That's why I was in foreclosure. I had previously filed bankruptcy, so I couldn't file bankruptcy again to save my house, right? So you can start literally wherever you are and start building wealth from scratch. What people, I didn't get to my other 2 challenges that are keeping most working class people broke. Number 1 was inflation. Number 2 was taxes. Number 3 is debt. People don't understand that debt is the enemy of your wealth. And as a man who's commissioned by God to be the protector and the provider for my family, if I'm the protector, anything that's coming against my family and debt is attacking my family's wealth, so that's my family's future, that's my future legacy, then you have to defend your family against debt. So debt is literally robbing us, because when you think about it, every dollar that you're paying interest on is a dollar that you're not earning interest on. So that's why debt is literally robbing us. So, and then the 4th challenge is big business. Now, I don't shun away from the fact that people need to have personal responsibility in their spending. But I do like to point out the fact that corporations are able to spend billions of dollars to figure out how to separate you from your money.
Oh, yes.
So that's a little bit unfair, don't you think?
Yes. Yes.
So they can figure out how to separate you. So they have an unfair advantage. If I can spend billions to figure out how to keep my money from them, then they would have no chance. So you have to have balance there. With, you think about the way our economy is set up. All right. We have a weekly stimulus. We have a monthly stimulus. We have a biannual stimulus, and we have an annual stimulus. What is the weekly stimulus? Everybody gets paid on the same day. That's by design. Because what happens on payday? You're going to gas up the car. You're going grocery shopping. You may go out to the movies. You're going to pay some bills. That stimulates the economy when all of that money gets to moving at the same time, right? Then you have a monthly stimulus. We just had one this month, Labor Day weekend. How much money did we as a collective country spend on the Labor Day weekend? All the travel, all the meat we bought that we barbecued, all the barbecue sauce, the new outfits that we had to have because we were going to
Right.
somebody's cookout
That's
who
right.
we probably don't even like, things of that nature. So that's a monthly stimulus, and you have that every month. Next month is Halloween. Month after that is Thanksgiving. Then you have your annual stimulus, which is Christmas. That whole 6-week holiday season from Thanksgiving, Black Friday, all the way through December 26th. Actually through New Year's, because you're going to have your New Year's celebrations and parties and all of that kind of stuff. So when you understand that, what big business has gotten a real handle on is the psychology of the working class. You work so hard just to pay bills that every time you have an opportunity to celebrate, you go overboard.
All the way out.
You go overboard. So they know that. So as a result, I'm not telling you guys to not participate in the holidays. What I'm saying is don't go overboard. Budget for it, plan for it, and stick to that plan. Plan ahead. Now, I'm not telling you what I heard. I'm telling you what I know. I've spent both November and December mortgage on Christmas. That's why we was in foreclosure. But when you have good kids that deserve to have, and as a man, here's another psychological game that they play on. As a man, my job is to provide. So when they deserve something, I get that knee-jerk reaction to say, the heck with the bills, let me give my children what they deserve, instead of saying, you know what, they do deserve it, so I'm not going to spend the mortgage money on it. They deserve it so much that I'm going to be a better provider. So I'm going to go figure out how to make more money. I'm going to figure out how to spend less money so that when I do treat them to the things that they deserve, it doesn't set the family back like it did when we were in
I'm
foreclosure.
so grateful I don't celebrate Christmas, Lord. I don't know what to do.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I understand what you're saying as far as getting caught up, because when I taught parenting for the probation department, a lot of my clients who in some cases had grown up in a situation that was where they felt broke, and some of them were poor, when they had children, because they didn't want their children to feel like they felt.
Yes.
They would spend huge amounts of money on their birthdays. And one young lady, for a 1-year-old, spent $1,000.
Whoa.
And I'm talking about cashed in link card, did all of this. And I sat there and I said, I'm not coming to you from a place of judgment. I'm coming to you with a real question. Why did you do that?
Right.
And she said, because I never had a birthday party ever. I said, can I ask you something else? She said, sure. I said, does your child have a college fund?
Right.
And she looked down. She said, no. And I said, I don't want you to feel like you're being beat up, but I want you to perhaps look at things a little differently.
Right.
And she looked at me and she said, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, just.
Yeah, I mean, it's water under the bridge now, but just recognize it as a mistake.
Right.
So you don't make it again.
Right. And I'm hoping wherever she was, this was many years ago, that she has done something differently. Something I want to throw out for people that you may throw out and you may not. We do have some personal habits also that we spend a nice amount of change on.
Yeah.
I used to calculate, because I always had at least 4 smokers in my parenting group.
Okay.
How much did you smoke? How much a week? And they would tell me, and it was usually somewhere around, at that time, $20 a week. I said, what's 20 times 52? And when they calculate the money out, they were sick. And I said, so you're not only just paying them to kill you. Right. You are looking at this because $20 a week doesn't look like a lot until you multiply it times 52. I said, in some weeks when you're stressed out, you're spending more than that. And they said, yeah. So I was like, is this money you could have taken and put a down payment on the home that you were talking about that you still haven't been able to get.
Right.
At least contributed to it. And is there that realization overall that, like I said, I'm not saying to not have a good time ever.
Right.
But when you do spend in an abundance, especially for a regular habit, excuse me, for example, the Horseshoe Casino or wherever they go to gamble, the smoking, the drinking, even some ladies are addicted to hair, going to the wig shop every week to get the new wig. That because they now do have weave on layaway and some type of loan program for wigs and stuff.
Finance your
and
weave.
It's crucial. So instead of that, again, I'm not saying you can't do what you want with your hair, but 20 years from now, are you gonna have that wig, or are you gonna be eating the cat food casserole?
You know what? There's two types of cash flow. There's positive cash flow and there's negative cash flow. We teach in our program that you've got to flip your cash flow cycle from negative to positive. I'll give an example of what negative cash flow is. Negative cash flow is when your lack of money is costing you money, right? So, and again, I'm not telling you what I heard, right? I'm telling you what I know. It's when you go to the gas station on Wednesday because you need gas for the rest of the week. You put in your debit card and you swipe it as credit, hoping that it doesn't come out because it takes a day or two delay when you use it as credit, or so you think. So you swipe it and you get filled up on Wednesday, never fails. 11:59 on Thursday, that charge hits your card. Now you got 3, 4, 5 overdraft fees
at $29 each.
At $29 each. So I've been there. I paid $120 for $30 worth of gas. So that's my lack of money costing me money. How about your mortgage is due on the 5th? You don't get paid to the 10th, right? Your mortgage is due on the 5th. You don't get paid to the 10th. So you just budget in the late fee and you just accept it as what it is. That's your lack of money costing you money. So as a result, you think about where you are in your negative cash flow cycle. We're talking about bank overdraft fees. We're talking about credit card late payments, the late payments on your cell phone bill. They're not turning your stuff off. They just will charge you, and they're gonna charge you $10 or $15 on each one of those bills. Well, if you add all those late fees up, let's just say your late fees total $50 a month. That's $600 a year. Some people may say, well, H. Cortez, that's not a big deal. $600 a year, whoop-de-doo. But you take that $600 a year and you multiply it times 40 years of your working career. Now it becomes a bigger deal. But some people will still say it's not a big deal. But understand this about money. Money is a seed. So you never look at a dollar as face value. You always look at that dollar as what it can become. So if you let those late fees accumulate, and it's not just about the $10,000, $12,000 that $600 a year becomes, it's what you missed out by not investing that $10,000, $12,000 a year. That's what you have to start looking at. And I was guilty when I combed through my budget. After many years of never taking it seriously, when I got in this program and started looking at my situation, I was overpaying $100 per month on subscriptions that were automatically coming out my bank account for stuff that I wasn't even using.
Wow. Well, I know Earl is giving us the evil eye, so we must sign off. This has been such an informative hour, and I so appreciate your celebrating my 30th anniversary with me. Yes.
Congratulations. I would have brought some balloons.
Yay.
You didn't tell me
I don't like balloons, so that's all right.
Okay.
Yay.
All right.
Your presence is enough. How do people get in touch with you?
Okay. 2 ways. Basically, I want to do this for your audience. I want to give each one a downloadable PDF of the book. So if you go to hcortezthornton.com/free download, you'll get a free PDF copy of the Financial Health Traffic Report, Overcoming the Roadblocks Keeping You from Your Financial Destination. And if you want to know more about my financial success system, then you simply go to financialhealthmentor.com, put in your best email address, and you will receive the information that you're looking for about our program. I am looking for people in the Chicagoland area that want to build wealth, but you have to be serious. Just go to that website, put in your best email address, and I'll reach out to you.
And with that, we are shutting down the beginning of year 3 of the Straight No Chaser show on intellectualradio.com and iHeartRadio station. Thank you so much, sir. And we will have our money moment again via the phone next week.
Awesome.
All right. And with that, I wish everybody peace and blessings in the name of Jesus. And always dedicate yourselves to the truth no matter the cost. This is Rhea Ray Harris signing off on the Straight No Chaser Show. Be well, everyone.
It's straight talk with no chaser. He gives the people a voice, empowers you with a choice. She gives you straight talk, no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. She provides a platform of growth and gives the dying people hope. She gives you straight talk, no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser.